Yes, a very good morning to you, Grenada, and the rest of the world. It's a Monday morning, start of another brand new week here in the Spice Isle. Today happens to be, where are we? Let's see here, the 11th day of February. And I'm George Grant. Thank you very much for joining us for today's edition of Good Day Grenada. As always, we've got a full program lined up for you this morning. But we're going to shift things around a little bit. Believe it or not, we're actually going to start this morning with the National Report. And the reason for that is because I want to bring you a segment which comes from yesterday morning's program. Those of you who joined us probably are aware that one of our guests was a gentleman by the name Cajetan Hood. Mr. Hood is a former Attorney General of Grenada, and he is just a little bit peeved about certain things, in particular the investigation into the Marketing and National Importing Board. And a lot of very interesting things were said there. And you know, even while doing the program yesterday, I thought, I got to share that with our viewers today. So that's what I'm going to do. In addition to that, I'm going to bring you a segment from a good buddy out there in the Big Apple, a gentleman by the name of Anthony D. Riggs. So Anthony is going to talk a bit about the Grenadian vocabulary. Yeah, funny. Some funny stuff in there. I think you'll find it very interesting. So, without further ado, before I start further ado-ing, let me say good morning to Veronica Sandy. She's wishing us a very blessed Monday, as always. Thank you very much, Veronica. And so, let's get right into Friday's edition of the National Report.
Government to recognize Devon Smith for contribution to cricket. We'll have details to this story and more in the National Report. With the details to the news for Friday, February 8th, I am Rakisha St. Louis. The government of Grenada plans to name a stand in the National Cricket Stadium in honor of cricketer Devon Smith. Prime Minister Dr. The Right Honorable Keith Mitchell made the announcement as he delivered his address at the Independence Day Military Parade and Rally.
I take this opportunity to recognize a young man who is not only talented on the cricket field, but one who possesses the type of grit and determination that is deserving of recognition or emulation. Having made his international cricket debut in 2003, Devon Smith earned a recall to the West Indies team for the Test series against Sri Lanka last year. And just recently, at the West Indies senior level, he came close to a double century, scoring 199 in a match against Barbados. In recognition of Devon's remarkable efforts in regional and international cricket, the government have instructed the Ministry of Sports to name a stand in the cricket stadium in the honor of Devon Smith. We have Roy Lewis and Junior Murray already recognized. We trust that this will enable his legacy to live on.
Smith, a top-order left-handed batsman, made his international cricket debut with the West Indies team in 2003. He played for the Windward Islands several years prior to that. The Hermitage St. Patrick resident was recalled to the West Indies team for the Test series against Sri Lanka last year, and most recently he played with the Windward Islands team in their match against Barbados, scoring 199 runs. Two other stands are already named in honor of talented Grenadian cricketers: wicketkeeper Junior Murray, who was the first Grenadian to play cricket for the West Indies, and leg spinner Roy Lewis, who currently manages the West Indies senior team. Foreign Minister Peter David says Grenada's strong bilateral and multilateral relationships with friendly countries, as well as shared sacrifice, are helping the country to grow in a manner that benefits all Grenadians. Addressing visiting dignitaries who were in Grenada to celebrate the country's 45th anniversary of independence, Minister David said Grenada faced many difficulties and challenges over the past 4.5 decades, but is now strategically positioning the country to recover from potential setbacks.
We are excited and optimistic about the path that our country is on at this time. And although we continue to record significant economic gains through sustained growth, which in turn brings increased opportunities for our people, we are acutely aware that there is still much more to be done to satisfy our nation's expectant population's desire for a higher standard of living. This is why our government is committed to providing better health care, more opportunities for higher education and training, adequate housing, sound infrastructure, roads and bridges, sporting and cultural facilities, and other social amenities. Excellencies, without your support and cooperation as strong bilateral and multilateral partners, we could not have made such progress. For this, we are extremely grateful.
Minister David also promised that Grenada will not forsake its regional and international obligations while it focuses on its domestic development agenda, and will continue within its capabilities to make a meaningful contribution to international discourse.
We continue to maintain our good image in the international community as we hold firm to the principles of non-interference and non-intervention in the affairs of states, respect for sovereignty, adherence to the rule of law, and respect for human rights and democracy. Indeed, let me assure you that Grenada's diplomacy is not being left behind as our country matures. We have deployed some of our best and brightest young people to represent us. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, under my leadership, will continue to provide strategic direction as we carve out a space to be more effective in the international arena.
Foreign Minister Peter David. This is the National Report. We'll have more news after the break.
Big business don't participate.
Welcome back. Bags, earrings, hats, home decor, leather accessories, local wine, ice cream, cake, and other delicacies were all on display at the 2019 Independence Made in Grenada Expo on Thursday. Through the Ministry of Trade, entrepreneurs were given an opportunity to showcase their local products to attract more markets. They were all very grateful for the forum to generate interest and revenue.
So far in terms of sales, it's a bit slow, but I think we've generated a lot of interest. Lots of persons have stopped by and they seem to love what we've put out here today. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank the Ministry of Trade for creating this opportunity for us to be here today.
So far the market has been excellent. Actually I need many hands, I'm just one person, so it has been excellent so far. Very, very good. That's my 4th year and it has been good thus far. I expect that all my sub go, every one of them.
This is one of our major events every year. So far the market is very good. We're in Andals, all the Andals, we're in Food Fair, Garnage and in Grandance. We're in Andy's Soup Shop and we're at SOG's Food. And we're expanding every day because we've just brought on stream our Pennacool brand. So we're expanding and we're doing very well.
The Ministry of Trade's Maining Grenada Expo records a slight increase in booth registration and participation for 2019. That's according to the Director of Trade, Junior Mahan. He spoke with the Government Information Service on Thursday during the island's 45th independence celebrations at the Kirani James Athletic Stadium. The expo, which is into its 7th year, gives manufacturers and entrepreneurs the opportunity to display their local produce with the hope of obtaining new markets. Mohan said this year saw the participation of 65 manufacturers.
This year we had a slight increase in the amount of persons registered. Last year we had about 55 persons and this year we have about 63. So there is a slight increase in this year's participation. We are more or less, promoting the local products and ensuring that, persons purchase and support the local agro-processors and manufacturers.
He highlighted some of the outstanding areas of participation.
We have persons, companies from agro-processing, you have the manufacturers, you have art and craft, and you also have persons who doing processing and so, the nutmeg spray, soaps and so on.
And finally, a fresh component has been added to the independence celebrations. The Commissioner of Police Challenge Trophy was introduced this year for the best platoon in the match past. It was won by Her Majesty's Prisons. Special Service Unit SSU placed 2nd and Cadets 3rd. Here are some highlights from Thursday's military parade at the National Stadium.
The prisons are looking well.
So the prisons are coming through. Let's hope that they hold it. They're holding that position. They've given the eyes right, and it seems at this point that all 3 lines are equally spaced, right? A bit better than the previous ones we've seen.
That's right.
But now they've lost it a little bit, but not as far as we've seen the others. The arm goes straight up in the eyes as the matches, and the next thing he's going to give to them would be the eyes right. So he gives them the eyes right, so head and eyes goes to the right, obviously to the dignitary on the DS. The officers with the sword, they salute as the unit go past. Now, the judges will be looking at that formation as to whether or not they're keeping their dressing. Now, let us look at how they go past with the eyes right. No, they're doing the eyes right. Hold your breath. Look at the formation. It is really, really critical at this point. If they are competing, if they are contesting, this is a very, very critical moment. They seem to be evenly spaced at this point between lines. If they hold that, they're up there looking really good. They've just lost a bit on the front, but they're holding closer even than the other.
I think they've done the best thus far in terms of the spacing in between the lines.
That story just ended the national report for today, Friday, February 8th. Recapping the top story. Government to recognize Devon Smith for contribution to cricket. On behalf of all those who made this newscast possible, I am Rakisha St. Louis saying thank you for joining us. Until next time.
dokie. There you have it. Friday's edition of the National Report. While you guys were listening, some of you were busy typing. And just let me share some of those comments with you. First of all, at the bottom here, I see Lincoln Depperdine rings a bell. Is that the Lincoln Toro Depperdine? If it is, man, really good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us, sir. He says, persons. So misused, so annoying. Hey, Lincoln, you noticed, eh? You noticed. That's just one. That's just one, my friend. Bernard Gilbert saying good morning, and so is T.F. Richards and Coylan Nash and Peter Bishop. Peter has a couple of comments here. Peter says, what's the name of the program from the GIS? The NNP report? And he laughs. And then he goes on to say here, the youngest and brightest minds to represent us in foreign service. Who are these people? Enough said. Irene Rattan is saying good morning to you, patriots. Thank you, Irene. Good morning. And so is our good friend out there, Margaret. And who else? Veronica Sandy, sending her blessings as always. My dear friends, it's now 18 minutes after the hour. Let's take our first little break here, and then we'll come on back. Oh, yeah. We'll come on back with our main feature this morning, Cashton Hood.
Together with you, our customers, we energize our community.
Together with you, we energize our economy. We are working together to give our nation a better tomorrow.
With you, we energize our future. Together, we energize our nation.
Thank you for partnering with us as we energize our Speyside.
Renlec, energizing our Grenada.
I'm always on the move. Training, traveling, competing.
A commemorative postage stamp.
So it's good to know I have Quad Bank in the palm of my hand.
Introducing e-banking, one of many customer convenience services from Grenada Cooperative Bank, and there's more to come.
It's swift, simple, and secure.
Welcome home.
Grenadian General Insurance Company, strength and stability. Grenadian General Insurance Company, tell your friends, tell your family. We cover householders comprehensive, motor and even fire too. Contractors all risk burglary, public liability, professional indemnity, directors liability, and wait, we still have more. Come and find out more what you're waiting for.
We are located on Scott Street, St. George's. For more information, call 440-2434.
Tell everybody.
Okay, folks, it's now 20 minutes after the hour. Couple of comments here. First of all, a little while ago, Lincoln Depperdine said, you know, persons, so misused and so annoying. Well, our former media pundit here, our good friend Margaret, chimed in and said, Lincoln, it's a pet peeve of many of us, but it ain't gonna change. You know, that's one of the things that drives us crazy. And since this conversation has started here, just let me make mention of something that I saw on Facebook yesterday. Harold Picety out there in New York started a conversation which many of you probably saw, and it had to do with the use of the word honorable. You know, honorable this, honorable that, honorable, and the right honorable as well. It is so abused Now, some people are not going to like to hear me say this, but you know what? When I get those press releases from the GIS, I started omitting the word honorable because it's not necessary. Every time you mention a minister's name, honorable this, the right honorable that, honorable, honor. Oh my God. It is so annoying. Who don't like it? I'm sorry. But it is not necessary. Not necessary. And you know something? Somebody pointed out to me down by the market a few weeks ago that, so obviously people notice. The person pointed, George, why is it that these people who have Grenada so up in arms about their behavior, why is it that they are the ones who constantly have to be referred to as honorable, honorable, honorable? For crying out loud, get a life. So that's just a couple of them, the honorable this and the honorable that, and persons, and the Tri-Island State, the Tri-Island State, the Tri-Island State. Huh? Is it always Trinidad and Tobago, Antigua, Barbuda? Please, for crying out loud. Anyhow, so Margaret says it ain't going to change. Well, Marg, you know, you're probably right on the money, girl. But I continue to be an optimist. One of these days it will sink in. Oh, another one I forgot. Would have. How could we forget? How could we? Bernard Gilbert says they need to go back to school. Bernard, some of these people were teachers. Now that you know that, just in case you didn't, do you understand why our education system is where it's at? Do you understand? T.F. Richards says, George, I totally agree with you. I was happy when I saw Harold's post. It's not necessary in terms of the English language. And also, most of them are dishonorable. Well, I'm not going to cast judgment. But you know what? Whether or not I say anything, the thought is out there. It is. I mean, that's why people talk about it. All you need to do is spend a little time on social media, and you'll see it. You'll see it yourselves. Okay, pilgrims, let me get caught up here. It's now 24 minutes after the hour. Hold on a minute. Hold on. Sharon Elizabeth Roberts says, Gigi, not only is the word honorable abused, the people they are referring to are the least honor. Was I making this up? The people they are referring to are the least honorable. Yeah. Go ahead. Pin it on George Grant. Easy target, eh? Yeah. So that's it. Let's leave Facebook there for just a sec. There's something I also want to explain before I get into Catch the Hood. Yesterday, there were a number of comments on Facebook that there were people who were trying to listen to us on the other platforms. You know that when we're not doing these programs live, we do run music 24/7, okay? But the instant before we begin one of these live programs, bang, we shut down our live stream, okay, the live music. So you don't hear music anymore. You hear the program that you're watching. That didn't happen yesterday. Well, at least the music was shut down, but for some reason or another, people were hearing music constantly. And guess what? I fiddled around after the program yesterday trying to figure out what the heck's going on here, because that's very unusual. You know, because you've been listening to the program for some time, and that has not been happening. Well, guess what? This morning, I noticed the same thing. Just before we started this program, we shut down the music. And as of a few minutes ago, I had pulled out one of my cell phones and decided, let me check and see if the audio is coming through on the other platforms. It ain't. I'm hearing music again. So, once I get through here this morning, we're going to be checking with IT people and see if they have a solution to this. Okay? Right. Now, Glenn Andrew Mark is saying good morning to you folks. Okay. You've probably heard by now that the former Chief Executive Officer of the Marketing and National Importing Board, Rule Edwards, is being investigated. You've heard that? Following allegations that there had been wrongdoing at the MNIB. This past week, Attorney at Law, former Attorney General Cajetan Hood, who was representing Mr. Edwards, called for the investigation to be halted because, in his view, it is unlawful. Well, Mr. Hood was featured as a guest on yesterday's edition of Sundays with George Grant and raised a number of concerns, which raised a number of eyebrows out there in the audience. In the public interest, my dear friends, this morning, I will bring you a rebroadcast of that discussion. Mr. Hood.
George, I was approached by Mr. Edwards, who had and still has very strong concerns, valid concerns, I dare say, regarding what is taking place. In fact, we have about over a week ago, yes, on the 1st of February, we filed with the High Court an action against the Integrity Commission. We are saying to the court that the Integrity Commission does not have the power to do what they are doing now.
Which is?
Which is, well, I'm not sure what they are doing, really, because they claim that they are inquiring into the affairs of the Marketing and National Importing Board for the purpose of determining if there is any wrongdoing, so that later on they could have a real inquiry. And I don't understand that. They are claiming that they have the power of their own initiative to launch that kind of investigation, which the statute does not support. And they are also claiming, the lady chairman said that she is giving all the media houses credit for bringing the state of affairs of the marketing board to their attention, which is pretty odd. So as far as I'm concerned, what I read from her statement and the statement of the board is that, sorry, the commission, is that we saw these newspaper reports, we heard the reports in the media, and therefore that's enough for us to go in and find out what's taking place.
My goodness. My goodness. Are you serious?
This is what she said. And she claims that there's authority in the Integrity in Public Life Act which supports it. I have searched it and read it diligently, and I've seen no such authority. In my view, it is wrong, it's contrary to law, it's arbitrary, and what it does, as far as my client is concerned, it exposes him to, well, he doesn't even know what's happening behind the scenes because it's a private inquiry. He apparently I say, because I do not want to be accused of saying somebody said, he apparently is the main subject of the investigation because the minister went on the media and made certain comments to the effect that the chief executive officer at that time, that was him, over a period of time, would be the subject of inquiries. As a matter of fact, the minister went so far to identify him as working with the government and did say that certain processes would be initiated regarding his employment. George, lo and behold, he was put on leave and then he was fired. We have started a process with the Labor Commissioner. We filed last week with the Labor Commissioner a complaint regarding unfair dismissal with respect to him. Because we are saying he was dismissed based on all of the allegations, and it's improper. But let's get back to the investigations themselves. George, there is no foundation for that Integrity Commission inquiry. The statute provides them with 2 occasions in which they can launch such an inquiry. One, with respect to a declaration that has been surrendered by a public officer, a person in public life, that they are dissatisfied with, they can investigate. Or, if there is a specific allegation of a breach of the code of conduct in the act, the allegation has to be in writing with reasons. Then the commission would look at the allegations and determine whether or not there is merit, and then proceed or not proceed. That's what the act says. There are general provisions where they can investigate public bodies, but it must be read within the context of the other bits of the legislation. So I think it's without foundation, but it's before the court. We're asking the court to stop the investigation because there's a lot of potential danger, further danger, to which our client is exposed. We don't know who's saying what hearsay is happening.
Has the investigation actually begun, Cashton?
Well, I can only say what the Madam Chairperson said, that they started in August, early August.
No. Because, I mean, towards the end of last year, we were told that the investigation would begin early this year.
I can only tell you what I read or what I heard from the notes, because the Prime Minister talked, first of all, a few days before, about having an investigation into Marketing and Board. And a few days later, the Integrity Commission came out and said, well, they have started an investigation, and Mr. Agostini has recused himself. And that was a newspaper report, August, September. So I can only go based on what has been said.
Okay. You know, thanks for confusing me on this Sunday morning, Kaji, because that's exactly what you're doing right now. I'm sitting here listening to you, and I'm asking myself a couple of questions. One, I'm a little bit surprised that this is all happening because they learned about it from the media. That's the first part that really surprised me. The purpose of the investigation, you said here a little while ago that they're investigating to see whether or not they really should investigate.
Whether or not there is something to investigate.
Okay.
Which makes no sense.
Okay, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm...
No, it's not a matter of law, George, with respect. Because what if, look at the danger to the public. What if somebody writes a couple of malicious stories about you in the papers? Does it mean that somebody has a right to just come and start digging up into your affairs with no specific terms of reference? The investigation has no terms of reference whatsoever. Isn't that strange?
Okay, I understand your point there. The other one is, why a private investigation? You know, when it was announced by the Prime Minister, I think the Prime Minister said this thing would be investigated, and then we heard that the commission of it, the Integrity Commission,
yes,
had taken it upon themselves to do this investigation. Yes. What do you make of that?
Confusion. George, in addition to that, put it this way. The Marketing Board was set up by its own act, its own statute. There is a Marketing and a National Importing Board Act. In the act, there are specific things that the board of the Marketing Board are required to do. And there are specific things that the said minister is supposed to do. The language is shall. If there is any problems in Marketing Board, the finger must be pointed before you go to the chief executive officer. There is the board, there is the minister, and worse yet, George, there is a provision for the director of Audit a constitutionally configured post to look at the accounts every single year and report to Parliament. The provision is there. So the board is supposed to, according to the Act, the Marketing and National Import Act, Marketing and National Important Board Act, 4 years before the end of December, the board is supposed to come together, put together a plan for the next year. The minister is supposed to look at the plan, comment on it, approve it, and then that plan has to be in place for the next year. The board is also supposed to come up with an implementation process for the plan, a monitoring scheme for the plan. And that is supposed to be a yearly process. Not only that, when the year ends in December, by the end of the third month, the board is responsible, according to the Act, for putting together the accounts of the marketing board and presenting them to the Director of Audit. The Director of Audit is supposed to review that with dispatch, present it to the Minister for submission to Parliament. So there is a process in place. If you're telling me that 5 years passed and the board was in shambles, who is responsible?
Okay, but what if the board was not reporting that there were issues?
Right. If the board was not reporting, all of the members of the board are appointed by the minister, 9 of them. And they have 2 years terms of service. So if the board doesn't report this year, the minister is supposed to call on the board and say, look, you're supposed to present this thing to me. So there is by September. Where is it?
No, but I'm not saying that the board did not report. I'm saying they could have reported,
yes,
but never indicated, hey, we have a little problem here.
No, it's for the minister to determine because he's in control of the board. He looks at the report, he looks at all of these things. Can't he say that can't he see there's a problem?
Not necessarily, Kaji. I mean, if I have to report to you, every year I have to write an annual report.
No, not just an annual report. Your accounts, all of your accounts, not an annual report. Your accounts.
Okay.
And it comes to you. It goes to the Director of Audit. The Director of Audit didn't pick it up.
So,
the Director of Audit.
You're saying that this is something that should have been spotted by
every year
a trained expert, the Director of Audit.
But the Director of Audit audits all government departments. And in this particular case, the Director of Audit is supposed to report on it with dispatch.
Okay. All right.
So it means that what should have been done over the years was not done. That's the point.
Okay. There was a breakdown.
Yes.
And so you do not necessarily believe the Prime Minister when he indicated that he was not aware.
Well, if he was not aware, it means he was not doing what he's supposed to do because he was supposed to be monitoring what's happened at the board, and he was supposed to make sure that the business plan was delivered to him every year, and that he had his input, and that the plan would have been according to his approval every year. That's what the marketing board act says. He had to personally look at the plan and approve it. If he didn't approve it, he needed to comment.
Is that the business plan section of the...
yes, I think it's section 22. Yes,
you
have it there,
22,
George.
The annual business plan. I'm trying to find here the...
The board shall not later than 4 months before the commencement of each financial year, and in such form as the minister. You see that?
Yeah.
So the minister is going to tell them how he requires it. So it's not a matter of an arbitrary plan. He tells them what he wants. And then he comments on what he presents, what is presented to him. And they have to go back and fix it to suit him. And that's 4 months before the financial year starts. So the financial year starts with a business plan approved by the minister, with the board giving him an implementation plan.
Okay. Mr. Hood, notwithstanding the fact that there was a public outcry when it was announced that the Integrity Commission would be handling this investigation, there's also the issue about timing. I mean, this is something we heard about October, November last year. about, the investigation that would take place. And here we are today, what is it, the 10th of February, and there's still some uncertainty in my mind, obviously in yours too, as to whether or not this investigation is underway. And assuming that it isn't, why has it taken so long? I mean, you identify some wrongdoing, you say there's going to be an investigation.
No, they have not identified any wrongdoing. That's the point I'm making.
No, it's an allegation.
No, there were certain specific allegations that your namesake, George Rome, and his papers would have presented. Certain specific allegations. So I don't know if that's what they're investigating. That's the point. There are no terms of reference. So we don't know what is happening. We don't know who they're talking to. There are no safeguards in terms of who is present. It's not a public inquiry, so we do not know what is taking place.
If there are no terms of reference, like you're saying here right now, doesn't that bring into question the integrity
of the Integrity Commission?
I wasn't going to say the integrity of the Integrity Commission. I understand why you did. I was going to say the integrity of the report that's going to come out of all of this. Same thing. Same thing. Okay. No.
And then what disturbed me even more, George, is that up front, without having done anything at all, they said we're going to publish a report to Governor General, Prime Minister, and the Director of Public Prosecution. Are you presuming there's criminal activity?
As a former Attorney General, I imagine that you would be pretty astute when it comes to the rules and regulations, especially when there's an existing act. Is that why you've sort of gone ballistic here? You're not a very happy camper right now.
No, I'm not happy because I think the Integrity Commission was set up for a specific purpose. I think it's a clear evidence of abuse of the intention of the Integrity Commission. And I've been very, very, very frank about it. The Integrity Commission, and when you look at the act itself, George, in 2013, there were amendments made to the Integrity Commission Act. In fact, the old act was revoked in 2013, and this new act replaced it. And there's the act says exactly what the Integrity Commission is set up for. Dealing with declarations, and if there is a case where there is a breach of the code of conduct, and the code of conduct is spelled out in detail, then the intention is that if you know there is a person in public life who is doing certain things that they should not be doing, you refer to the code of conduct and you specifically say to the commission, look, Jack Thomas, who is so-and-so, is doing so-and-so contrary to so-and-so and so. That's the intention.
You know, Kaji, I hear your point. But, people who are listening and watching you right now are saying to themselves, well, just another one, because in recent times we have shown such a blatant disregard for our Constitution, our institutions, our people.
So, George, when are we going to stop? Because there have been many breaches, we're going to let the other one stop?
No.
George, I've remained silent for the last year and a half because I didn't want it to appear that I left office and I wanted to quickly make, complaints. Yes. I didn't want that to happen. The gentleman approached me. It engaged me. It engaged my mind. And that's the reason why I did what I had to do. As a lawyer, I was approached and I to represent him, and I took on the matter.
Let me share with you some comments on Facebook here. Somebody's Andrea St. B says, process in place? In Grenada, does anyone care about process? Seems everyone's doing their own thing at all levels. Okay.
Well, in this case, I am saying there is an elaborate process. The reason is because the poor people, the farmers, are who this act was meant to protect. the interest. There's an elaborate process to make sure you have a plan going forward every single year, and to make sure that your business accounts are audited every single year promptly, not by anybody, but by the director of audit.
How much is it, Mickerman Alexander, how much is it costing taxpayers to do that inquiry?
That's what I want to know.
You want to know that too?
That's what I want to know.
Mickerman, he wants to know that too.
Yes, because the director of audit is already paid, and the director of audit has his or her staff, and the Constitution vests the director of audit with, hear my point now, with protection from any interference by the political directorate. So that person can very objectively do the report and supervise properly.
Bernard Gilbert says the minister getting his math wrong, so he not so bright after all. Earl Joseph Maitland says, thank you for standing with our people to pursue justice, Integrity in Public Life Act. The Integrity Commission acts contrary to Schedule 6 of the same act. Who's investigating them?
Well, that's a question. Well, the court has, to answer that, the court has superintendents of all of these things. That's the reason why I filed action in court. So the court would look at what has happened and make a pronouncement. That's the final bastion.
Bernard says, great job for standing up for the voiceless. Try and get a lot more people to stand up for the voiceless. People are very frustrated out there right now.
George, I am with the teachers regarding the pension. I'm with the teachers regarding the salary deduction, which again I filed in court. I deem that as unconstitutional, regardless what anybody says. And we are going after the pension story, which has been there for 30 odd years. Nobody wants to deal with that issue. Everybody is ducking it. But the court is going to deal with it.
Do you sense that there's a move afoot on behalf of the Grenadian people to become a little bit more concerned? You know, a lot of the stuff we hear.
I think so.
You're sensing a change?
I think so. And the reason why I'm here today is to make sure that we, as Grenadian people, we stand up for what belongs to us.
Yeah.
We can't just capitulate.
I think the people, to a large extent, have forgotten their rights. They are our government. We hire we pay these people.
That's the point. That's the point.
And they need to be reminded of that.
Well, they need to know who they are responsible to. It's a government. It's supposed to be a government of the people, by the people.
Let me toss a googly at you right now. There are a lot of people out there who have concerns, which need to be dealt with in a legal way. Kaji, you're a lawyer. Kaji, there are a lot of people out there who cannot afford to take a matter
to court. Yes.
Talk about that.
Well, it goes two ways. For example, if it is a matter...
there are a lot of lawyers who provide pro bono.
No, I'm coming to that.
Okay.
If it's a matter which, and I know there are several colleagues of mine who are taking the same approach. If it's a matter that we deem to be of national significance and importance, I know for sure there are several of us who will do it without charging. Because, for example, the matter with the huge matter with the pensions, Mr. Bristol and I are working on it, and we are not going to be asking for fees of the unions on that, because we think it's a national issue, right? There are several other lawyers who adopt that approach. On the other hand, we have to understand, the public needs to understand that it is a business, George. It's a business. It's a way of life. It's a person's livelihood. So one should not be trying to come down on a young person who's trying to make a living being a lawyer, and can't expect them to just do it for free.
Yeah. And like I said, there are a lot of lawyers who do pro bono work. Tessa Barry on Rumble Chat says, who presents the board with the information to look at And can that person give the board the information they want?
Yes, but that's where the CEO comes in. That's the reason why I'm saying the CEO is about 3 rungs down the ladder in terms of responsibility. Because the CEO sits in the meetings of the board. So I expect the board to give him directions. And they would meet from time to time, I think every month, and make sure that they get what they want of the CEO or get rid of the CEO. You can't sit back and say the CEO didn't give me. Get another CEO.
You know, I know that when a matter is in court, people who are involved are usually reluctant to speak.
Yes.
Okay. But within the last couple of months, I did have the chairperson of the Integrity Commission, Anande Trotman, Lady Anande Trotman, sitting in the same chair you are. And she was quite open with me. And, you know, if we had her sitting here today, what would you like to ask her?
What caused the Integrity Commission to commence the so-called investigation inquiry? What really caused it?
You know, Kaji, I'm going to, hold on a minute. I want you to dictate that because I'm going to sit down here right now like a fresh little boy and write this thing. What caused?
What really caused?
Yeah.
The Integrity Commission.
Yeah.
To decide to commence.
Yeah.
The action. I wouldn't call it an inquiry or whatever it is. And the action that they have chosen.
You know, I'm going to pursue that. I'm curious. And I like both sides to have their say. You're getting your stuff off your chest this morning. And I hope she'll be able to answer. Again, I said, you know, when matters are in court, people are sometimes a little bit defensive. Yeah. Thank you very much, Mr. Hood. You glad you came? You glad you came?
I'm very glad I came. At least my client's position is out there a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
I know he has written to the Prime Minister, to the Minister, challenging certain things that were said.
Are you expecting a response?
Yes, I expect a response.
Yeah.
Some way or the other.
Okay.
Maybe a deflective one or whatever, I expect a response.
And perhaps when you do get that response, we'll have some more to talk about.
That's a possibility.
Possible.
But the matter is in court. We haven't had a date as yet for the matter. And a part of the reason is because we don't have courts.
Please,
so
don't give me another headache.
So I'm not blaming the judges or the registry. It's simply because really we don't have sufficient courts to deal with it. So the matters are backed up. Even criminal matters are backed up.
Okay, so you outlined a little while ago you were with the unions on pension, you were with the unions on salaries. Who else is it you're with?
I am with Mr. Edwards on the unfair dismissal. Unfair dismissal.
Unfair dismissal.
It's before it's already before the Labour Commissioner, and we have this Integrity Commission matter being pursued.
And are you with the lawyers on courts?
The
lawyers on the courts.
Well, yeah, we all have been complaining, but I just don't think that dressing up and standing up in the courtyard is an effective way.
You know that caught my attention, and I'll tell you something. They did their protest at about 9 o'clock one morning. Okay, the day before, the president of the association was sitting in your chair here. Okay, now 9 o'clock in the morning, I am on the air. I don't get off until about 10 o'clock. So I wasn't able to get down to the courthouse until about 11 o'clock. Casually, when I got, there was nobody there. There was like a security guard. She went, "Who are you looking for?" Who are you looking for? I thought these folks were protesting, and I expected it might have lasted, well, a day.
That's why I said I didn't think it was effective, because they were standing there, but I wasn't around. I had another engagement. But then just after that, they were rushing to go to court. I remember a time when we felt sufficiently strongly about a matter in the Hugh Wildman days, and we refused to go to court for a period of time.
Okay, hold on a sec. Some more comments here. Slowly but surely, our country will stand united. The arms of government will be forced to be independent, so says Earl Joseph Maitland. Wendy Ann Farry Simon says, Mr. Hood, I point fingers to all of you for the government's behavior. This man should be grounded long ago. Too much long rope he got. Earl Maitland says, no courts. Strategy to delay justice by the Prime Minister, I assume. Ernesto Jose says, Mr. G, just a cricket update. England 260 for 6 wickets. Thanks, Kashi. Thanks for coming, sir. I appreciate your time.
Well.
And you're going to keep us?
Anytime. But you have my number, George. So.
Yeah, you have my number too, sir. When you're driving by, at least call up and you throw a roti up here for me.
Okay. Will do.
Thank you very much. Mr. Cashton Hood, former Attorney General of Grenada, talking with us there about his concerns about the investigation, which I don't know. I'm not sure if the investigation is currently underway or about to get underway or what. But anyhow, he has promised us that he'll keep us informed. Okie dokie, okie dokie. Mr. Cashton Hood, the attorney for Ruel Edwards. Told you that would raise a few eyebrows. Obviously it did. I see here on Facebook, T.F. Richards is saying, George, I've been saying this from the inception. According to Maurice Bishop in one of his famous speeches, quote, is either we born big, dumb, or stupid, unquote. Why is a so-called commission investigating something with likely criminal implications before the police? With the Prime Minister saying, based on what they get, it would be handed over to the police. Huh? This is the foolishness that happens, and scapegoats are then pulled under the bus. So says TF. Laurie Bridgman says, interesting. Let us put in legal aid for those who cannot afford. So says Laurie. And Veronica says, thank you, sir, for fighting for the people. Yeah? Pilgrims, that ain't all. That ain't all. We have just about gone out of time. It's half a minute before 10 o'clock. But I'm not going to leave you without a chuckle. We're going to take a quick little break here, and then we're going to come on back and take a smile in from Mr. Anthony DeRiggs.
Juve chocolates, cocoa nibs, and cocoa balls from Diamond Estate Grenada are now available at Amazon.com, Amazon.ca, Amazon.co.uk, and GrenadaMarket.com. Try the sensational touch of nutmeg and a touch of ginger chocolates, 75% dark and rich, 100% pure cocoa, and their 60% dark and sweet chocolate bars today. Amazon Prime members enjoy free shipping on these orders in the USA, Canada, and Europe. GrenadaMarket.com. When you can't come to the island, the products of the island will come to you.
Hey, Lynn.
Hey, neighbor.
Here's the bill I asked you to pay for me.
How did you get your electricity bill to be so low?
For one, we size our transformers just for what we need. And we unplug transformers, chargers, and other devices when they're not in use. We also replaced our light bulbs with LEDs.
They burn less energy, right?
Much less. I even replaced the seal on my refrigerator door to keep the cold air in.
And Grenlec is always advising us not to open the fridge too often.
That's right. And my family washes and irons in bulk.
With fuel prices changing all the time, how do you know if it is working?
We pay attention to the usage history table. Over time, our average usage has decreased.
So while Grenada can't control fuel prices, I can conserve energy and save money.
Grenlec, energizing our Grenada.
With free island-wide delivery, Hubbard's Building Supplies and Lumber Departments continue to provide the best quality lumber, steel, tiles, plumbing materials, electrical, and general hardware supplies at competitive prices. We continually consult with builders, homeowners, and contractors to improve product range and services. Enjoy discounts where applicable, including the use of credit and debit cards. At Hubbard's Building Supplies, Grandance, and Lumber Department, Caranage, we offer quality service, affordable prices, giving you the convenient, reliable, free island-wide delivery. Call 440-2087 for all your home improvement and building solutions.
Alrighty, folks, I don't have to tell you that Grenadian dialect has a vocabulary of its own. No one knows that better than poet, author, Anthony DeRace. What am I talking about? Listen.
Again, the tittery. Tittery, a Kalinago word. Now to part 2. Grenadians traveled widely to places like Aruba and Curacao to work in the oil fields, also to Panama to help construct the Panama Canal. They migrated to places like Trinidad, Cuba, Jamaica, and other Caribbean islands. Those who returned brought external expressions which found their way into everyday Grenadian talk. The spoken word in Grenada is therefore a fusion, a rich fusion. And the following example illustrates my point. Mr. Kojo went to Tood Bagay restaurant where he had a tittery fish cake and a roti. He met his compere Philip and they decided to take a stroll up Fort George to breeze out. In the above sentence, one finds the African name Kojo mixed with the French patois Tood Bagay, the Indian word roti, and the English name Fort George, as well as the local term breeze out, which means to relax in the open air. You ever breeze out under a coquillot tree? Grenada became a place where English idioms and even biblical sayings were intertwined with local Caribbean and American and other expressions. I must therefore acknowledge certain individuals for their interests and work in trying to preserve the rich language that evolved in Grenada. I refer to Mr. Alistair Hughes, Mr. Claude Francis, Mr. Thelma Phillip, Mr. Cardwell Taylor. Mr. Hughes, a renowned journalist, was aware of the history behind the words, while Mr. Claude Francis, educator and businessman, emphasized that language is a living thing. Mr. Cardwell Taylor is a lawyer, historian, author, and indeed a Grenadian literary icon. Ms. Thelma Phillip, she was a cultural hero who spent much of her time promoting the Grenadian folklore, dialect, and the culture. The following is a quotation from Mr. Claude Francis. I found that our dialect was a mixture of English, French, and the additions of people coming back from working in Spanish-speaking countries like Panama, Venezuela, Cuba, and Costa Rica. He further asserted that words were both mispronounced and changed. I found that all this needed clarifying, and each word had a story behind it. It showed me that language was a living thing. Our language gives rise to a lot of humor when words are misused in our dialect because they've sung like English words which have a completely different meaning. Someone picks up a cutlass and said, he will salaka somebody because the word sung like massacre. Humor also comes from knowing the background of what is being said and seeing all the errors and double meanings. I must add, local words like sazanita, which derive from the word assassinator, and I tolerate. You ever hear grandmother say, I cannot tolerate you? Sprung from tolerate. Grenadians were noted for uttering statements like, you're standing up like assassinator, and I can't tolerate your behavior. Expressions that seeped into the country were doctored over time. The drugstore became the doctor shop, while the gas station became the Bowser. Idioms were spiced up, and others received their spice when spoken in the rich Grenadian cadence. I make reference to those I heard while growing up, no matter where they originated. Such sayings, when included popular slogans, came from the American movies and songs also. We in Grenada adopted them and used them in our everyday conversation. Mr. Claude Francis made the point that knowledge of the dialect is essential. Get this, people. Knowledge of the dialect is essential to unlock our history. Tell that to the cultural people and the politicians. Various sayings were drilled into our heads by parents and teachers, and they were meant to admonish, teach, inform, instruct, scold, warn, and instill wisdom. Our elders were sociologists and philosophers in their own right, though many of them never had a primary education. Yet, they were able to provide us with meaningful expressions that guided us. And many of the sayings would cause us to chuckle, or even to bust out laughing on hearing them. But we paid attention to the message intended to implant in us. One might ask, what is it about these sayings that are so important? You know, people ask that kind of question. You know, what's about it? We pass that, let me go on. I point out that great lessons can be learned from them. The history and culture of the country are revealed in expressions. The word Masanto, which was a battle torch, or is a battle torch, pull us right back to the estate life in Grenada during the 1940s and before, when it was customary to light the Masanto to pick up cocoa and nutmeg after the sun went down. There is a history of Grenadian history in the word sky red. For that points to the Grenada leader Eric Gary, who struggled against the Grenadian plant or the plantocracy, as it was called. The French word bourgeoisie was used in Grenada, unlike in France, to identify race and class. It's a bourgeois girl. While growing up in Grenada, I often heard words like mash. I still hear it in Flatbush. A woman shouted out, "Don't mash my foot!" And I know she was from the Spice. And manger. And I use them without questioning the roots of the words. Just use them. People say, mash dog. I want to chase you away. Mash dog. So it was later that I made the French connection, and from reading the work of Alistair Hughes and others. The word scrum, American term, filtered in. Manger, the local saying, stem from the French. Bondi, good God. I had a good friend called Debbie, who when answering in the affirmative was fond of saying, yes, we. He was using the English and French word for yes. I often joke that the Europeans confuse us so much that we say yes in two languages and in the same sentence. Crapo, smoke your pipe. You're in grave trouble. Crapo, Patwa word for frog. The people who walked on the roads in Grenada were called travel walkers. Nobody wanted to do travel walk back then. And now travel walk is big walk. Gary called the travel people road engineers. Road engineers. Elevated it. Make it sound nice. No one cannot one cannot deny that there is a rich assortment of words and sayings that spice up the Grenadian vocabulary. And whenever people hail from, wherever people hail from, once they settled in Grenada and assimilated, they became familiar with expressions like, "Give me a fish cake dinner." I had to stop doing this thing 3 o'clock and 2 o'clock in the morning, because sleep does get you sometimes. But I hope you get a little knowledge here. Anthony Wendell Derriggs. Tittery.
You want to know something? I've been sitting here watching that bowl of tittery and salivating. Yeah. Kind of makes you hungry, doesn't it? Thank you very much, Anthony. Thank you very much, as always. And my dear friends, I certainly hope this morning we have been not only informative, but entertaining as well. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to leave you by asking a question, and hopefully providing you with a little hope. Is there a thorn in your life that you've been trying to get rid of? If there is, this one's for you. It comes from the second book of Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 7 to 10. Therefore, in order to keep me from becoming conceited, I was given a thorn in my flesh, a messenger of Satan to torment me. 3 times I pleaded with the Lord to take it away from me. But he said to me, "My grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly about my weaknesses, so that Christ's power may rest on me. That is why, for Christ's sake, I delight in weaknesses, in insults, in hardships, in persecutions, in difficulties. For when I am weak, then I am strong." Check it out. Second book of Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 7 to 10. On that note, my dear friends, 1:15. Thank you so much for joining me. I do look forward to your company again tomorrow morning. And in the meantime, may our good Lord bless and keep you.